Hello. It's the next day. I was gonna say good morning, but it's very much not morning anymore. And I've got quite a few books to show you. We have the couple that we got from the bookstore yesterday, and then also I do have this other pile of books of some more books that we got from the bookstore just on a different trip, and then also I do have a couple of library books that I want to show you because I've already read them. I am going to talk more thoroughly about both of these books in my October reading wrap-up, but I wanted to mention them in this video just in case you're kind of looking for something else to read this October. We have The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and then we also have My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. Essentially, this is about a wedding that takes place on a remote island, and you do get the perspective of 5 different characters: the bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid. And it says all have a secret, all have a motive, but only one is a murderer. You're essentially following all 5 of these people. You get their backstory, you get kind of like their thoughts leading up to this wedding on the wedding day. And for me personally, my favorite type of thriller is kind of like a whodunit murder mystery style where everyone's kind of stuck in one location. Those ones are just so fun for me. So I really enjoyed this, and I'm really excited that I liked it because I read The Paris Apartment, also by Lucy Foley, last year, and I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't my favorite. I think it was actually my least favorite thriller that I read last year, which was so disappointing because everyone seemed to love that freaking book. This was kind of like a redemption for Lucy Foley for me, and she has been redeemed. I know there are a couple other books, at least one other, that I know of, The Hunting Party, that I think has a similar kind of everyone stuck in one location type of situation. So I definitely plan on picking that book up as well and giving that a try. And then we have My Roommate is a Vampire, again by Jenna Levine or Levine, and this was so freaking cute. Very briefly, this is essentially about a girl who finds an ad in Craigslist for an apartment, like a too good to be true kind of situation, but she goes to try it out anyway and she ends up moving in, and then like a couple months or a few months into her living there, she finds out that he's a vampire, and it's just a super cute little love story. Now let's go ahead and get into the books that we've actually purchased recently. So there has been two very important release days this October. I did do a video specific to all of my fall releases that I'm kind of excited for and kind of looking out for, but there were a couple of different books specifically with 2 separate release days that I was extra excited for. One of which was October 3rd and then yesterday, October 10th. So the book that sparked the initial October 3rd trip was Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco, and essentially this is a spin-off book of The Kingdom of the Wicked, which I just so happened to read that entire series like right before or right as fall was kind of starting, and it is kind of like a spicy fantasy romance series. The first book is not spicy, but it does get a little spicier as you go along. For anyone that hasn't read it, it's basically about a witch and the 7 princes of hell, all of which kind of embody one of the 7 deadly sins. That series, The Kingdom of the Wicked, did focus mostly on wrath, but you did kind of get to know the other princes of hell, some of them more than others, but one of them specifically I ended up really liking, which was Envy. So not only was I excited about the fact that Kingdom of the Wicked was coming out with a spin-off book, but also this book just so happens to focus on Envy. I have been dying to get my hands on this freaking book, and I'm so beyond excited to finally get to read it. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really a fan of this cover. The Barnes & Noble exclusive or the original, they're basically the same. The background color is just different. The original is black, and this one is kind of like a pinky purple type of color. It's kind of funny because when I first started this channel, I pretty much only bought paperback books, but now that I have these new shelves and I'm kind of like going for more of like a dark academia type of vibe with them, now I prefer hardcovers because they just look better on the shelves. So anyway, the whole point of me telling you all of that, not gonna lie, not really a fan of the way the actual hardcover itself for the Barnes & Noble exclusive looks either. So I have a question for you actually. If you are someone that has purchased the hardcover of the original version of this, not the Barnes & Noble exclusive, does it look any different? And if so, is it prettier? Because if it is, I'm probably gonna end up returning this and getting the original copy. But that being said, really quickly before we move on to the next book, this does have really pretty end papers. It's kind of like a green map. And then there is illustrated like headers on the chapter pages. And there's actually 2 different ones. We have this one, which is kind of like a floral, but then also we have another one, which kind of fits the cover. It's kind of got like some keys on it. Oh, actually also, is there more? I just saw a very dark page. What was that? Was I imagining things? Oh, there we go. There's also different parts in the book which have full-on illustrated pages, which is pretty cool. I love when books have like little touches like that. Anyway, I feel like I was talking about that book for so very long, so let's go ahead and move on. The other book that was released on October 3rd and another kind of like highly anticipated book for me was Curious Tides by Pascal Lassalle. Again, this is also another Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. I'm sitting right in front of a window, so it's kind of like glaring off of all of these covers. So I don't know if you can really see it that well, but it's purple. And the water for the original cover is like a teal blue kind of color. This one does not have any kind of end papers, but we also do have illustrated headers and then also illustrated part pages. And the actual hardcover for this one is actually pretty cool. This one has kind of like this really cool metallic silver like sun illustration, and then the binding also has kind of that illustrated sun kind of pattern added to the title as well, which I think is a really nice, cute little touch. It'll look really nice on the bookshelves. Anyway, let's go ahead and actually talk about what this book is about, because this one does sound really fun actually. So this one is basically about a girl named Emery who goes to a lunar school for magic, and I guess it's kind of like an elite or like an Ivy League version of a magic school. But apparently Emery herself is kind of mediocre as far as like her magical abilities, until she goes to the sea caves with a bunch of her classmates who end up all dying in like a crazy accident, and that left Emery as like the only survivor. But also she leaves the caves with a bunch of powers that apparently should be impossible for her to have. So she's kind of struggling with these powers, and she ends up meeting Baz, who is another student that goes to the school, and I guess his sister was one of the students that ended up dying in these sea caves. So they kind of team up to not only have him help her kind of gain control of her powers, but also to kind of figure out what happened in these caves. Any kind of like fantasy book that has like a school, like a magical school setting, immediately it's gonna be something I want to read. So I'm very, very excited for this one. Also too, it does seem like there's gonna be a romance between Emery and Baz, and more than anything, do I love me a good fantasy romance. And then the last book that I got on our October 3rd trip was The Scarlet Veil. And again, we have another Barnes & Noble exclusive. This is what she looks like. Excuse me? How pretty is that? And then also here's what the spine looks like. But also we have really pretty end papers as well. And this book is actually very similar to Throne of the Fallen, because this is also a spin-off of a series that I haven't finished yet, but I did start. The first book in the series is called Serpent and Dove. That one's basically a fantasy romance between a witch and a witch hunter. And it was a pleasant surprise because Serpent and Dove is a book that I see a lot like suggested to me on Amazon, and then I always see it whenever I go to Barnes & Noble, but I never really hear anyone talk about it. But I ended up getting it kind of like on a whim on a Barnes & Noble trip because I needed another like buy one get one half off book, so I just kind of grabbed it. And I'm so glad that I did because it was so freaking good. And I did actually get the second and third book, Blood and Honey and Gods and Monsters, during the same trip as well, but I got them in paperback. And again, I kind of decided to start only getting books in hardcover, especially fantasy books, because a lot of the times, specifically with fantasy, I don't really like the way the covers look. So as you saw actually yesterday, I got a little clip of me like bagging up the books. I did return those because I am going to be purchasing them in hardcover, which if you get them from Amazon, they're essentially the same price as the paperbacks from Barnes. So just a little tip. I'm probably not going to get back into this series until November, but I'm very excited for this book when that happens. So that's enough about that one. Now let's go ahead and move on to the books that we actually got yesterday. And again, the book that sparked this trip yesterday was, I think, probably the second book that I was the most excited for the entire fall season, and that is The Night Hunt by Alexandra Christo. I typically don't like cartoony type of covers like this, but this like person creature thing is so freaking cool looking to me. So I don't mind it. I did already actually start this book as well. I was in between books last night and I really wanted to read, so we started this one and it is so good so far. It's actually kind of funny because the last book of the series that I just talked about is called Gods and Monsters, and this book is basically about a world of gods and monsters. Literally within the first couple of pages of this book, we were introduced to 2 different magical creatures, so immediately I was hooked. Basically, this one is about a creature, her. I don't actually know how to pronounce her name. It's A-T-I-A, so either like Aisha or Adia. I've been saying Aisha because it sounds more fantasy-esque. But she's basically the last of her kind, which is this. And she's allowed to basically do whatever she wants, feed on whoever she wants. But the only rule that the gods have for all of the monsters is that they're not allowed to kill any humans. And for any monster that does kill a human, they end up getting cursed, and their curse kind of corresponds, or like, what's the word? Manifests in a way specific to what kind of creature slash monster that you are. And so obviously the book opens up with Asha accidentally killing a human and getting cursed. And the person that curses her is a herald, who are the gods' messengers. However, the herald does actually know about a loophole to kind of reverse the curse for her. So where I'm at in the story currently is they've kind of like teamed up together to complete these tasks that they need to do to reverse the curse, which are kill a vampire, a banshee, and one of the very gods who destroyed both of their lives. So very obviously this is a fantasy book, which is my absolute favorite. But then also we have collected another member to their little group, aka their ragtag team, and I'm so freaking excited for it. I love a found family type of vibe, and this is giving that, and I'm very excited. Now, last but certainly not least, hopefully, we have Rouge by Mona Awad. Mona Awad is the writer of Bunny, which is a book that I read last year, and honestly, it's one of my least favorite books I have ever read. Basically, what I learned from reading that book is anytime anyone talks about a book feeling like a fever dream, not for me. So, why did I buy another book from this author, you may ask? I don't know. In actuality, the cover is what drew me to this book. First of all, I love kind of like the vibe of the font and just kind of like the color and simplicity of the cover, like the red and the black. But mostly, I love this freaking flower. It looks like it's kind of like a rose at first glance, but if you look a little closer, it's an upside down jellyfish. And I just love the bizarreness of that. Also, too, I did see someone haul this, and not only is the dust jacket really pretty, but the hardcover itself, first off, it's red, but then also I feel like the text on the spine just looks really cool. It kind of has like a 70s, 80s type of vibe to me, and very, very excited about the aesthetics of this book. And I'm gonna go ahead and read the synopsis for this one. So it says, for as long as she can remember, Belle has been insidiously obsessed with skin and skincare videos, which, as someone in my 30s, same. When her estranged mother, Noelle, mysteriously dies, Belle finds herself back in Southern California, dealing with her mother's considerable debts and grappling with lingering questions about her death. The stakes escalate when a strange woman in red appears at the funeral, offering a tantalizing clue about her mother's demise, followed by a cryptic video about a transformative spa experience. With the help of a pair of red shoes, Belle is lured into the barbed embrace of La Maison del Medusa, the same lavish, culty spa to which her mother was devoted. There, Belle discovers the frightening secret behind her and her mother's obsession with the mirror, and the great shimmering depths and demons that lurk on the other side of the glass. So everything about that sounds interesting to me. Again, I am like super obsessed with skincare right now and with not aging. And then also too, like the first thing that I ever watched on YouTube, like what, 14, 15 years ago was the beauty community. That's kind of like what sucked me in. So I'm very, very interested in reading this. I'm hoping, really, really crossing my fingers, it'll be good. And with that, those are all of the books that I have for my most recent 2 bookstore trips. And per usual, if you're interested in any of the books that I talked about, I will have all of them linked down below. Anyway, I think that's everything that I have for this video. I hope you have had the most amazing of days, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. Bye!